and your branch of service?
George R. Kelley. United States Air Force. Actually, you see, I was in the Army. She started out in the Army Air Corps, then the United States Air Force. See, there was no Air Force until the 17th of September 1947. So, initially, it was the Army Air Corps. Then it went to the USAAF, United States Army Air Force. And then on the 17th of September 1947, it went to the United States Air Force. The Air Force wasn't until 17 September 1947.
Okay. Were you drafted or did you enlist?
I enlisted.
Where were you living at the time?
Somerville, Massachusetts.
Why did you join?
Well, I had graduated from high school in 1942, and I enlisted in well, it would be the Army, I guess, yeah, the Army, in July 20th, 1942. Because we were in the Second World War at that time. We had just been in the Second World War.
Tell me about your boot camp, where you did boot camp.
I was sent to Fort Devens, Massachusetts, and from there I went to Miami Beach, Florida, for my basic training.
Do you remember your instructors?
Oh no, I can't remember that.
How did you get through it?
No problem.
No problem. Which wars did you serve in?
The Second World War and the Korean War.
Where exactly did you go during the wars?
Well, I landed in England in May of 1943. In Liverpool. From there I went to a replacement camp in Stone in Staffordshire, England, and from there I was assigned to the 305th Bomb Group, 422nd Bomb Squadron at Charleston, England.
What was your job assignment?
An aircraft radio maintenance technician.
Did you see any combat?
No. We maintained the bombers and...
Were there many casualties within your unit?
Many. They flew daylight raids over Germany, France, England. Our biggest loss was at the first swine fit, where we lost a tremendous amount of aircraft. The aircraft we was the B-17 bomber.
Was it easy for you to stay in touch with your family? Did you
No.
stay in touch with them?
Yeah, but the only thing was through mail, that's all. There was no, not like today.
What was the food like?
It wasn't bad. Food wasn't bad at all.
Did you have plenty of supplies? Or were you guys short-handed with supplies?
Well, no, we were pretty well.
Was there something you did for good luck while you were over there? Nothing. How did people entertain themselves? What did you guys do for entertainment?
Well, we used to go to the surrounding towns, and we were in the Midlands, and outside of Rushden, Berkeley-Borough, there was like a sludge of towns all around over there. There were a huge number of bombers, heavy bombers, in that area. I was on one base, but there were probably about, I don't know how many. Incidentally, I should have added that was on that was the 1st Air Division of the 8th Air Force. Should put that 1st Air Division.
Do you recall any particularly humorous or unusual events while you were over there?
Well, we lived a pretty normal life, you know. The only bad, well, how do I say this? The only trying experience was your service plane would send them out on daylight missions, by the way, daylight missions. And, well, I can remember like the first Schweinfurt raid. Schweinfurt, Germany. Used to be the ball bearing industry of Germany. We had a tremendous loss of airplanes. We lost, but it was the worst loss we had. We'd probably lose 1-2 aircraft per mission, but on the Schweinfurt, boy, we really had heavy losses. Probably, in my experience, the toughest bombing raid of the Second World War in England, out of England.
Do you recall the day that your service ended?
The 31st of March, 1960.
Where were you?
Dover Air Force Base, Delaware. Dover, Delaware.
What did you do in the days and weeks afterwards, after you were out of the military?
Well, when I get out of the military, not many people know this. I was employed by the Metropolitan Transport Authority in Boston, Mass. As a special investigator working directly hell were they called? For the general manager of the Metropolitan Transit Authority. I never went into the headquarters of the Metropolitan Transit Authority. I worked more or less as a direct investigator for the general manager.
Did you make any close friends while in service?
Did I what?
Make any close friends?
In the service?
Yeah, while you were in the service.
Oh, yeah. Many.
Did you continue any of those relationships after you got out of the service?
Well, see, I stayed in the service for 21 years. And surprising, a lot of the people that were in the unit with me in the 305th Bombs, 422nd Squadron, all right now, of the section that I was in, I would say at least 50% of them became professional military people in the United States Air Force. Almost 50% of them. Half of them. And as I would travel around for the 21 years, I was in many places. Obviously, I ran into these people. I ran into, we ran into each other.
You said after you graduated high school, you enlisted. How many of your fellow classmates enlisted into the military after graduation?
Let's see. I went to a small Catholic high school. It was co-ed, and there was I would say almost everyone. See, the Second World War, it was much different than anything you can ever remember. Everyone that I knew as friends was in the military. Every one of them. Except, of course, some of them couldn't get in for physical reasons. Sure, they couldn't get. But I would say I'd say 80% of the people that I went to school with and were friends of mine outside enlisted in the military during the Second World War.
Why did you pick the branch of service that you did?
Well, it wasn't my first choice. My first choice was the United States Navy. But for physical reasons, I couldn't get in there. So I turned and went in the Army. That's how come I get in this progression of which was great. Because I don't think I would ever have made a career in the Navy, but I did in the Air Force. When I went to the 422nd Bomb Squad, and that was my first real assignment. All the rest was in, I went to basic training, radio maintenance schools, combat training, it was all training. But the first unit was the 305th Bomb, 422nd Squadron. That was the squadron I was in. And although I was in the Army Air Corps, I had never been near an airplane until I got to which is only, the group was probably, I forget, maybe 100, 125. And we went to Camp Kilmer in New Jersey, which was the overseas depot, and we were slated, really, I believe, this is rumor, of course, nothing was definite then, and we were slated for North Africa. That was the big operation then. And one of the guys come down with measles, and it threw us out of the sequence. And as a result, we stayed at Kilmer till May of 1943. We went there in January, just after the first of the year in 43. We would have been gone, you see. But the guy got the measles, and then they quarantined us, and we got out of the sequence somehow. And we just stayed at Kilmer till 1943, May of 43. 4 months, 4.5 months. Which we never should have, you just went in there, you were gone. But this guy got the measles and they quarantined him. It was good, bad, but it wasn't too bad.
Do you have any other stories that you remember from the war, as far as either meeting other generals or any other high-ranking military officials? Or working on it?
Curtis LeMay. Was the operations officer of the 305th Bomb Group, who later became one of the greatest bombing experts, I'd say, in the world. Not only, at that time, he was probably, and the commander of the Strategic Air Command during the Cold War, probably was one of the few generals that the Russians knew and were aware of. It was LeMay, Curtis LeMay. But how I got hooked, really, I was starting to tell you, the first time I went, I had an orientation. Actually, I was just a kid. I was a sergeant. Steve Cerny was his name. He took me out to the first time I was in an aircraft, and it was a B-17 that was a standby aircraft for that day's mission, and had bomb loads and everything. Well, I was awed when I was in that. But that hooked me. I worked on aircraft for 21 years after that. It was my whole life. But that's the first aircraft, when it was a B-17, loaded, stand by for a mission in, where did you, probably Germany, France, or England, and that really, it made a lasting impression that lasted 21 years. Of course, I worked on probably in my career on every aircraft that the Air Force had at one time or another, either in a well, I was always with the aircraft. I was always involved with aircraft. Probably until, I shouldn't say that too. I then, in 1951, by that time I became a comm chief. I was a master sergeant. And I would work then always in the director of communications. I was like the comm chief for the 316 group. For all of it, I was the comm chief. In the Korean War, I was the comm chief for the Combat Cargo Command in the 315th Air Division, and the commanding general of the Combat Cargo Command and the 315th Air Division was Tunner. I don't know if you've heard of Tunner, who was probably one of the famous cargo commanders. He started out in the China-Burma hump during the Second World War. He was the commanding general during the Berlin airlift. He was, that was his, and he was an expert. He was an absolute expert in that phase of the Air Force. I worked for a lot of the colonels that I worked for example, there was one, his name was Hampton. I was his comm chief. He became a 4-star general and was the commander of East Staff, of all the Eastern Cargo Command. The other one's name was Tex Carlton. He was started out in the Flying Tigers with Shanghai Shek. Oh God, I served with his son. Anyway, he started out with him in the Flying Tigers. He ended up as a 4-star general and commander of West Staff. One was on the east and the other was on the west. They're retired, they're very old now. What was the other guy? I did a lot of after like 51, I was mostly working at command levels. You know, for 7 years, I was the NCOIC of the wing of the Inspector General's section in the at McConnell Air Force Base. Okay, what I do after that? Then I went to as the superintendent of C&E at Elmendorf in Alaska. That's when I come there. After that, I come back and I was the superintendent of communications, aircraft C&E communications at Dover, as far as I
Is there anything that you would like to add that we haven't covered in this interview about your time in the military, your service in the military?
Oh, I don't know. I probably the people I served with the professionals in the military. They were professional. And they were probably, remember, I retired from the military when I was 38 years old. I retired in the March as I was 39 in the June. But I was only, it was almost 38 and a half. And the people I served with, that I served with in the Air Force, were probably some of the, and I'm comparing them with my experience in the private sector. I always had very high supervisory jobs in the private sector, and dealt with a lot of, like, the director of the building, and so on. But the people that I served with in the military were probably the most professional people. See, they were all they weren't soldiers per se, they were aircraft maintenance people, instrument people, radar people, communications people. They were all technicians, and they were, in most cases, pretty well educated. They had to be because their jobs were so technical, right? You know, they had to be. And these people were just smart and great people. They were just great people. They're most of them were family men, had families, and most of them were chiefs, superintendents of something. And, like, for example, you get to you think of Elmendorf as a big base in Alaska, and the people, the superintendents, the chiefs, they were people of high morals. They were respected, and they ran these big bases. They were run by the chiefs. The chiefs run them. There's officers, there was colonels, and there was generals, but the day-to-day, the really running of the base is the chiefs. Of course, that's the same in all military. Like the Army, the Army bases are run by chiefs and masters. They run it. They make it work. They pretty good. But probably now in the Korean War it was a little different. Again, I was in the director of communication, but then I physically was in the field as opposed to being in a bomber group. You understand? There I was physically in the field. I had radio stations, only about 5 of them in Korea. And some of the things that I had a buck sergeant, the sergeant, and he had the station at Kimpo in Korea. When the Chinese come in and they drove them out of the base, they left the base. And he had what we called a mobile station. And as they went down the road, he was transmitting, his people were transmitting information back to us. I can't remember this kid's name, but there was a general, his name was Childry. I barely remember him. But this sergeant, of course we went back and took everything back and everything. But this general always had this sergeant with him.